Good evening, and to the school board meeting for District 196. It is Monday, September 27th, 2021. Welcome and rise and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Board, before you tonight, there's a revised agenda. It's the addition of a clinical school counseling experience agreement with Winona State University. So I would ask for approval of the agenda as amended.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion by Sachin, a second by Corey. All in favor of the agenda indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. That passes on a 5-0 vote. Art and Craig could not be with us this evening, so we are short two. We'll move on to the recognitions. We've got recognitions by the superintendent. We'll turn it over to Superintendent Krieger.
Thank you. Congratulations to the 49 District 196 seniors who are receiving special recognition this fall in the National Merit Scholarship Program. Students are recognized as semifinalists and commended students based on scores they achieved on a national standardized test they took last year as juniors. We will officially recognize these students at our next regular school board meeting on Monday, October 11th. And congratulations to our award-winning Rosemont High School marching band on hosting the school's 31st annual Marching Band Festival last Saturday in the high school stadium. The event featured performances from 14 high school marching bands. Rosemont and Eastview will be competing in the Youth and Music Marching Band Championship on Saturday, October 9th at US Bank Stadium. And lastly, I want to recognize our outstanding principals and assistant principals. Later on in this meeting, the school board will be asked to approve a resolution designating the week of October 4th through the 8th as Principals and Assistant Principals Appreciation Week in District 196. Our principals and assistant principals are talented, dedicated, and caring professionals who provide leadership for their schools and staff, guidance for students, and support for families. Thank you for the important work you do for our school communities. At this time, I would like to invite any principals and assistant principals who are with us this evening to stand and be recognized.
And we've got lots of them out in the hallway.
Come on in. That's it.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the special communication request. People who would like to speak during a special communication request must submit a form at least 5 days in advance of the meeting. 10 speakers receive up to 4 minutes to share comments. If there are more than 10 speakers, a lottery is conducted to determine those 10 speakers. Speakers may not allot their time to others, and we use a timer for public comments and will remind speakers when they have 30 seconds remaining. We expect speakers to finish their remarks when their time expires, or they will. Speakers are also reminded not to share complaints about specific employees or make inappropriate comments. Opinions shared during the public comment portion of the meeting do not necessarily represent the views of the school board or the district. The audience is expected to remain calm and civil and not to disrupt speakers from being heard. Speakers, when you come to the podium, would you please state your name and your connection to the school district? Next up, in our speaker this evening is Jeff Gorman.
Thank you. Taxpayer of 196. Okay, I'm ready to go. All right, tonight I'd like to openly express my support to educators regarding critical race theory. But let me be clear. I'm speaking about the many educators who addressed their concerns against CRT in an open letter to the district superintendent. Not only did they express opposition to this Marxist ideology, they're sick and tired of the intimidation, the bully tactics, and threats of being fired for merely expressing their opinions. CRT was not conceived as a program that fosters a child's education. It clearly teaches division instead of diversity and separates instead of unifies. Using buzzwords like oppression, the oppressor, privilege, whiteness, white fragility, microaggressions, and so on. It doesn't stop. This is not education, it is indoctrination. The NEA and the district superintendent make it clear to educators the feeling is shut up and color, or else. There seems to be two standards for intimidation and bullying. Several months ago, a board member said this in his media posting, Hillary Clinton was right. They are deplorables, and you know who you are, close quote. Using this kind of language is divisive, inflammatory, intimidating, a behavior that's unbecoming of an elected school board member. And he pawns himself off as a community collaborator in the local newspapers, claiming to accept all viewpoints and opinions. Really? Come on. As a retired Air Force commander, I would never use that type of language on social media. And if any of my squadron commanders expressed this type of hatred on or off duty, they'd be fired. And if I didn't hold them accountable, I'd be fired as well. The Air Force commanders live by a strict code of ethics. And speaking of ethics, it appears that this school board member violated the ethical standards for school board members in District 196. Article 1 states, as a member of the school board, I will, item 3.3, make no disparaging remarks in or out of school board meetings. It's clear that the only opinions this school board member accepts are only those that he agrees with in his ideology. And again, in a school board meeting back in August, a speaker advocated the mask mandate policy based on his own viewpoints. After his speech, the same board member could be heard saying, I'm voting for the mask mandate. Again, another violation of the school board ethics. Item 3.4, keep an open mind about how I will vote on any proposition until the board has fully met and discussed the issue. Why would he do this? I believe his outburst was designed to further harass and intimidate the parents that were in audience that night. And how can you not agree after reading his divisive rhetoric on social media? In my opinion, this is more of a violation of his integrity, which is far more serious and reflects poorly on the entire board. It's overwhelmingly clear this member is more concerned with his ideology than a sincere concern for our children. And Madam Chairperson, you were aware of his behavior, yet it appears that you did nothing. And we need to understand, where's your leadership on these issues? The appearance of your actions are loud and clear. We could break the rules, and you can't hold us accountable. Tonight, I'm asking that board member, and you know who you are, he may not be here, and I can't say his name or I'll be penalized. I'm asking him to resign by the end of the week based on his violation of school board policy, but the more serious issue with his integrity. And Madam Chairperson, again, because you failed to hold these members accountable, I'm calling for your resignation as well. From the commander's standpoint, it's the honorable thing to do.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next speaker is Michelle Blanch.
Do you guys have the data sheet
Yes.
provided tonight?
Yes,
Okay.
we have the handouts
I'm
that
ready
you gave
when
us.
you
Thank
are.
you.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Michelle, and I have 5 children, 4 currently attending schools within District 196. I would like to ask you tonight to reconsider expanding the mask mandate criteria for District 196 to consider not only case transmission, but also hospitalizations, death rates, and disease severity of COVID-19 as it pertains to the age demographics we are mandating masks, namely our children. Let's look at Minnesota Department of Health data for children. So far in Minnesota, there have been roughly 115,000 cases and 950 hospitalizations of COVID for school-aged children. That is 0.82% hospitalized. This percent would be even smaller if we factored in the asymptomatic cases that didn't get tested. Even more so, there have been only 2 deaths from the child age group for the entire pandemic. That is 0.001% of school-age children with COVID have died in Minnesota, and none since April of 2021. Less than 1% hospitalized and 0.001% death rate for school-age children in Minnesota. The CDC data shows a nationwide survival rate for school-age children having COVID to be 99.99%, even without a vaccine for those under 12. Hospitalizations in children since July have slightly increased, and interpreting this into a percent, it now stands at, hear this, 0.0004% hospitalization rate per 100,000 population for school-age children. And this rate has decreased since its peak on September 3rd. If this rate translated over to our school systems of 29,700 children attending District 196, it could be compared to not even one child being hospitalized from COVID. Even with a higher transmission rate in our county, the daily death count for Dakota County remained consistent all summer and has not increased past 4 daily deaths since May of 2021. Hospitalization rates for our county are not indicating an increase in disease severity, as these rates are still paralleling with case transmissions. The overall survival rate for our county since July has been 99.52%. Again, this percent would be even higher if we factored in asymptomatic cases. Looking at this data, must we wait until there is a moderate transmission, which translates to a rate of 0.05% per 100,000 population, to make masks become recommended again? Children are in the least susceptible age demographic for serious illness from COVID. The CDC claims that COVID cases for children are mostly mild or asymptomatic, even with the Delta variant. Long COVID is rare and in about 4% of child COVID cases. Yes, the children could possibly transmit COVID from school to home, but we now have vaccines and therapeutics to combat this virus. All those vulnerable to serious illness and immunocompromise must take caution, and I fully support them to wear the protection they need. But I would like to ask you today, based on this expanded data, to please allow me to choose how I protect my family from COVID, and furthermore, make masks recommended for our district. My kids can now have a birthday party, play contact sports, go to a concert, attend the state fair, shop at Mall of America, eat at a restaurant, pack out a stadium, all without masking, but the place they are required to perceive there to be a danger for them or others to get sick and spread it is at school, so they need to mask up. This is just not a consistent message. Hundreds of schools across the country, even within our own state, have respected the rights of the families to decide the best course of action for the safety and health of their children concerning masks, even while our entire country is in high transmission. We all live with risk every day. What level of risk are we willing to find acceptable? 1/100th of a percent? 1,000th of a percent? School board, I firmly believe, based on these CDC statistics, that my child will be safe at school with or without a mask, and appeal to you to please consider reviewing policy for masks to be recommended and not mandated. Thank you for your time.
Our last speaker tonight is Pamela Colby.
My name is Pam Colby. Can you hear me okay? I wear hearing aids, so I can't, the feedback, I'm not sure. Okay, thank you. Ready? Okay. Everyone is entitled to their own personal opinion without criticism or censorship. Please know I speak from facts and my American values, hoping people will be informed of the current corruption in our schools and government. I'm certain that most of the school board members are old enough to remember Russia's leader, Nikita Khrushchev. In a speech by Ronald Reagan, he stated the following: 3 months before Khrushchev's last visit to this country, Khrushchev said, "We cannot expect the American people to jump from capitalism to communism, but we can assist their elected leaders in giving them small doses of socialism until they awake one day to find they have communism." It's been over 60 years since Khrushchev delivered his numerous predictions. Many of you were not even alive. Here are a few. Your children's children will live under communism. No, you won't accept communism outright, but we will keep feeding you small doses of socialism until you finally wake up and find you already have communism. The democracy will cease to exist when you take away from those who are willing to work and give to those who would not. Remember, parents and taxpayers, This agenda is pushed daily by small and large doses of CSE and CRT indoctrination. Examples: recall the fact of the eloquently speaking, now former sophomore student of Rosemont High at a board meeting who shared the alarming facts of Rosemont High's teachings. And a high school teacher bragging of Black Lives Matters posters in his classroom. This is in 196. There are 8 levels of control to create socialism leading to communism. Many of these are coming true. Healthcare. Control healthcare and you control the people. Example, demanding masks for children in school, even knowing the side effects and increase of pneumonia, tuberculosis, infections, etc. The list goes on with horror reports. 2, poverty. Increase the poverty level. People are easy to control and will not fight back if you provide everything. 3, debt. Increase the debt to an unsustainable level. You're able to increase taxes and produce more poverty. 4, gun control. Remove the ability to defend themselves from the government. That way you are able to create a police state. 5, welfare. Take control of every aspect, food, housing, income of lives, because that will make them fully dependent on the government. 6, education. Take control of what people read, watch, listen to, and take control of what children learn in school. 196 is pushing CSE and CRT into our children's lives and academics across the board, from math to social studies to history, etc., plus allowing changes of historical facts and shaming students if they don't go along with, for example, the mask agenda. 7, religion. Remove the belief in God from the government and schools because the people need to believe in only the government knowing best. Lastly, class warfare. Divide the people into the wealthy and the poor. Eliminate the middle class. This will cause more discontent. Khrushchev also said, "We'll bury you." Where do you stand? Electing new school board members to protect our children, or the same old agenda of no answers to the numerous questions asked over and over to the same decade-old repeat members of this school board refusing answers? We need changes to protect our children from the push of socialism, or whatever you wish to call this evil. Be very, very careful of who you vote for in November. There is no election integrity. The judges are not from the open community. They are union-backed staff. Be very vigilant of candidates running. For example, one woman has an open police file due to harassment, is on the ballot. The ones running from the school board are definitely not solid choices for children and families that we have seen demonstrated this past year. Remember, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
Thank you. Next on our agenda this evening is our consent agenda. Under consent, we have the minutes of the September 13th, 2021 special school board meeting. We have the minutes of the September 13th, 2021 regular school board meeting. We have the minutes of the September 21, 2021 special school board meeting. We have gifts, quarterly gifts, grants, quarterly advertising revenue. We have the treasurer's report for July 2021. We have a schedule of investments for August 2021. We have personnel exhibits. We have pay rates for substitute, temporary, and part-time employees. We have a student intern agreement. We have a clinical school counseling experience with Winona State University, and we have appointment of student election judge trainees. With that, board, I would ask if there's any items on the consent agenda that you would like to pull this evening. Seeing none, I would ask the wish of the board.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Joel and a second by Mike to approve the consent agenda as outlined. All in favor of the consent agenda indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes on a 5-0 vote. Thank you very much. This evening, there are no items of report, there are no items of old business, and there are no items of new business. We have one other action item this evening, or two other action items this evening. The first one is a 2021 payable 2022 property tax levy limitations. We'll call up Mark Stotz. And board members, you can follow along in board docs.
Good evening, Chair Magnuson, Superintendent Krieger, members of the board. This is an annual event where the school district administration requests that the board approve the preliminary levy for payable 2022. And since our fiscal year does not fall on a calendar year, it's for our 22-23 school year or fiscal year. Just a little background, the board's required to certify a preliminary levy prior to September 30th of every year. From there, it goes to the county, who assembles the information, and then truth and taxation statements go out to property owners in the district. Usually late November they receive those, so that they're able to see what the proposed increase or decrease or maintaining the current existing levy is for the upcoming year. Then the district is required to hold a truth and taxation hearing. That is scheduled for December 13th, and will cover the proposed levy as well as the budget, and take any public input at that point. And then ultimately, the board is asked to approve the final levy for the year 2022. Tonight I'm coming with the preliminary levy at $124,898,864. This is a 2.83% increase over the current year's levy. And again, the board will be asked to certify the maximum tonight. The only way that number can increase is if we were to hold an operating or a bond referendum in November and it was successful. We're doing neither of those, so it shouldn't increase due to that. But also any corrections that the Minnesota Department of Education makes may be reflected and may reflect an increase to this proposed levy. Otherwise, the board cannot arbitrarily decide to raise that levy. It's all established by legislative formulas. And again, we're requesting that the board approve the maximum amount this evening.
Thank you. This is another action item this evening. With that, I'll ask for a motion and a second before we move into discussion.
So moved. Second?
A motion by Mike and a second by Joel. With that, I'll ask if there are any questions or comments from the audience specifically relating to the property tax levy limitations. Seeing none, no questions from the audience, we'll move to board. Questions or comments, board, on the levy before us? This is the start, and it just keeps going from here.
It does, and you know, it's kind of interesting because right now we're actually working in 3 fiscal years. We're hopefully getting close to the end of the audit for the 2021 year. Obviously, we're in the current year budget, so 21-22, and then this is the first step in establishing the budget for the 22-23 fiscal years. So,
exactly. With that, before us, we've got the 2021 payable 2022 property tax levy limitations as outlined. We have a motion by Mike and a second by Joel. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. That passes on a 5-0 vote.
thank you.
The last other action item this evening is the Principals and Assistants Principals Appreciation Week, October 4th through the 8th, and we'll turn it over to Superintendent Krieger.
So tonight, I ask your approval of the resolution declaring District 196 Principals and Assistant Principals Appreciation Week, October 4th through October 8th, 2021. There's a few more.
It's an action item this evening, so before we move into conversation, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
Move to approve?
Second?
Such a motion and second by Corey. Are there any questions or comments from the audience on our principals and Assistant Principals Appreciation Week, other than maybe a round of applause? With that, we've got a motion by any board members with items they'd like to. Go ahead, Joel.
Just want to say thank you to all our principals and assistant principals. This has been a trying past 18 months for sure, and they've done a great job leading our buildings through it, and done a great job in getting our schools open again this fall. So I really appreciate them and all their work.
And people who really epitomize District 196 and the words and assignments as other assignments as necessary. Who would have thought you would have been having to worry about what's on TikTok or what's going on in the world? as far as health, and they've done a tremendous job, so we thank all of our principals and assistant principals for their work with students and families. With that, we've got a motion and a second before us to approve the Appreciation Week for principals and assistant principals. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. That passes on a 5-0 vote. We'll come to the end of our agenda. We've got asked for board members with items that they'd like to report this evening. No, we'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Okay, we have a few updates. Each year, the Minnesota Department of Education makes available financial data for all public school districts in the state. The data for fiscal year 2020 shows that District 196 spent less per pupil than the averages for school districts statewide in the metro area and the state's 10 largest districts, but spent a higher percentage of total operating expenditures on regular classroom instruction. We know that our teachers in the classroom make the biggest difference in the quality of education our students receive, and that is reflected in how we spend our precious resources. If you would like to review those spending comparisons in detail, go to the front page of the district website at district196.org. And we have a very important school board election coming up. This fall, the League of Women Voters of Dakota County will be hosting a virtual candidate forum on September 29th. The forum will be recorded and available to view afterward on the District 196 YouTube channel, District 196 TV, and several other community social media and cable access channels. Please be informed and vote. Absentee voting for the school board election opened earlier this month. Voters do not need a reason to vote by absentee ballot. Absentee ballots can be completed by mail or in person at the district office in Rosemont or at one of the Dakota County government centers in Apple Valley, Hastings, and West St. Paul. Eligible voters can also cast their ballot during early in-person voting the week before the election and at their school district precinct on Election Day on Tuesday, November 2nd. Lastly, I do want to reassure all District 196 residents that school district elections are conducted with utmost integrity. Deputy General Counsel Janie Lewing oversees our elections. We follow all Minnesota election laws and work in cooperation with election officials from Dakota County and the cities in our district. We hire election judges and head judges who receive training that is conducted by Dakota County. Absentee ballots are secured at all times and are administered by an absentee ballot board of experienced election judges. All electronic voting systems are tested at least twice before each election to ensure each machine correctly tabulates votes on the test ballots. The voting machines are owned by the City of Eagan, and we're able to use them for school district elections. These are a few examples of the many rules and laws that we must follow to ensure the integrity of school district elections. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we've come to the end of our agenda this evening. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is Monday, October 11th. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Joel, a second by Corey. All in favor of adjourning indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We're adjourned.